I'd like to welcome you all here today to this class, and what we're covering here within the colour theory course are colour contrasts. My name is Aisling Bowers and I am your tutor for the next 12 minutes. I'm just going to run through one or two health and safety issues first of all. In the event of a fire, we have two exits here. One is to the right hand side and one is to my left hand side down the corridor. And what you will do is, if you hear the fire alarm going off, you will get up from your seats and you will just leave the building in an orderly fashion and wait outside for further instruction. Also, there is no smoking, and for those with mobile phones, if you could please keep them turned off for the duration of the class. There is no eating food or drinking also during this course. There is a toilet just outside here on the right hand side if you feel the need to use it. So we're going to start here now, and this section is on colour contrasts. Like I said, my name is Aisling Bowers and I'm your tutor. The objective of the lesson here is that by the end of this class you will be able to understand what simultaneous contrast is and why some colours work well with others and why some don't. I've given you a handout there, as you can see, and I also have your colour wheels which you can use. You had them from the previous class and we'll use them again in this class today. Now, an introduction here. Colour scheme is a choice of colours used in design to create style and appeal. And I hope you'd all agree with that. I want to just give you an example of something else that, where it needs to be harmonious and work well together. Think of music. I mean, if you think of music, it's pleasing to the senses, and when we listen to it, if it's harmonious, if the notes and the chords work well together, it's very nice, we really like it, it's very relaxing and very pleasing. Well, colour is the same. If colour is harmonious, it must work well together. I know we went through the colour wheel in a previous class, and we talked about how it was developed, and how the colours, how we saw colour, and how we reacted to it, and the psychology of colour also. And this is all linked in with it here. So it's important in your job as colour consultants that you can recognise colour harmony, and the reason for this is because we all have our own tastes and we all know what we like, but when you're working for somebody else, it's important that you understand that they might not necessarily like what you like. So you have to, from the information that they give you, you have to understand what they like and work accordingly with that. So as I have here, you expand your tastes and preference to choose from a wide range of styles so that you can create a successful colour scheme for your clients, even if it is not your own personal style. Now, if you think of colour schemes, I know we went through colour schemes with a colour wheel in one of the previous classes. And if you think of your colour schemes, think about colours that might clash. And it can make a room look quite garish. I'm sure you'd all agree with that. You can have some colours in some rooms and they just don't work, and you look at them and they might give you a bit of a headache or a bit of eye strain, as you'll see later on how that works. However, we do need some contrast, because without contrast, a scheme can look very bland and uninteresting. So we need something to appease our senses. And your contrast can be subtle or it can be strong, depending on the colours and the tones that you use. Now, simultaneous contrast, which is what we're learning here today. Simultaneous contrast, otherwise known as chromostereophosis, I hope I have that right, and it happens when colours opposite each other on your colour wheel are placed in close proximity to each other. So basically what that means is when you have colours that are opposite, I'll show you, I have the large wheel here and you have a small wheel there. When you have the colours, for example, that are opposite, you've got your yellow in your colour wheel and you've got your purple. What happens is when you place those two colours opposite each other, the purple will intensify the yellow, and it will intensify the strength in the yellow, and the yellow will intensify the strength in the purple. So you've got two colours there that will be very strong, and sometimes, when you have colours that are very strong and you look at them, it can create strain in your eyes. So here we go, here's a definition, so to speak. Simultaneous contrast is the apparent ability of a colour to change its appearance when it is placed next to or completely surrounded by another colour. So like I said, you know, you have your yellow and your purple will intensify your yellow and vice versa. But again, if you think of our colour schemes and think of your harmonious colour scheme, where you've got your three colours, your analogous colour scheme, as we talked about. You've got your orange, your yellow-orange, and your yellow. Now you see the difference. If you've got your yellow against your yellow-orange, it's not as strong or as intense if you have your yellow against your purple, because like I said, the simultaneous, the contrast, the direct contrast, that colour brings out the yellow and the strength in that colour. Whereas if you had those three colours together, they all kind of blend, because you have the thread of yellow in all of those. So it's quite harmonious. And we talked about colour schemes and complementaries, split complementaries, and all those colours. So as I said there, you can use your colour wheel as a tool, and you can, use it throughout the class and have a look and see, some examples. So colours can seem visually appealing or not, depending on the colours that surround them and the colours that they interact with. Now here we have an example of your simultaneous contrast. When you have colours that are too close together in the colour wheel, they are hard to read due to the low level of contrast. So for example, you see you've got blue here against a black background. Now that is practically impossible to read. So I mean, if you were doing a sign or something and you were trying to read that, you'd have people in the training, and it would be very difficult. And again, you've got your yellow against a white background. Because your yellow is a very vibrant colour and a very light colour, it's against the white background. So it's very difficult to read, again, and it's very hard to see. Now there it's quite dull, so it's easier, but when it's strong hue is another word for colour, it can be very difficult to see. So there's, it's not much of a contrast. Now here's another example. We've got red on a blue background, and again that's very hard to read. You'll find when you look at colours like that, they're two primary colours, so they're very strong and intense colours. And you'll see that if you were to look at that for too long, the text will seem to vibrate and jump around and cast a shadow. And what that will do is that will cause you eye strain or eye fatigue. So you couldn't be looking at that for too long, because you'd get a headache. So imagine what that would be like to live with. Imagine if you had a room that was, with those colours that were so intense. It would be very difficult, and it would create, you create headaches and eye strain. You wouldn't feel comfortable in that room at all. So what we need to do is we need to look at how to make that more harmonious. Now, so if we look here at colour schemes here that have got a high level of contrast. So what you have here is you've got blue against a white background, and you've got red against a white background. So as you can see here, it's so much easier to read that. Your blue, you've no problem making it out against the white background, and again the red. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
So here again, we've got, by choosing colours that harmonise, you can change the whole appearance of these colours. See here we've got, I'm just going to move this on one so you can see. Here we've got a purple square on a white background, and also one on a black background, which would appear darker. The two coloured backgrounds will be not as strong a contrast. There's still a high contrast though, but they wouldn't be strong. Now we'll go back to those. So you see, if you look at, you've got your purple against your white background here. So you see how that's so much easier to look at, because you've got the high contrast there. And again, even though this is a colour here, this is quite a much a light colour compared to the strong and intense purple. So it's easier to look at. Whereas if you look at this here, you've got the purple and the black, and then also you've got the brown and the black. In particular the purple and the black, because they're so close together in their intensity and their depth, it's very hard to see them. So in other words, it makes it much stronger and much harder to read. So as you can see here, both the tone and the intensity are affected with the colours. Some make it brighter and some make it duller. So by choosing colours that harmonise, the whole appearance of a colour will change completely before your eyes. So for example, the purple and the white, they're much more harmonious because there isn't as much fatigue or eye strain. There isn't as much simultaneous contrast as opposed to the black and the purple. So anyway, in that class what we went over, we went through how colour is like music, and it can be very pleasing to the senses, and how it's very important that our colours harmonise. And again, as I said, you can use your colour wheel, and you can think of the colour schemes that we went over, in the last class. For example, you've got your complementary colours, your split complementary colours, and how all that works. And we've got the strength of the colour, and you know how it lightens up as you go down the colour wheel. And also what we learned was that if you don't have your colours and they're not harmonising and they're not working well together, they can appear very garish, and you know it can create a strain on us and on our on our how we look at colours in our mind and visually. So this process on how colours work together is called simultaneous contrast, and again, like I said, colours can be connected through our colour wheel. So by now you should be able to understand what simultaneous contrast is and why some colours work well with others and why some don't. So would you think that you learned that?
Yes, definitely.
Very good. Well, I hope you enjoyed the class, and I have left notes there, and I also have a post-course appraisal form for you, and I left one there as an example of it, and I left one there for you on your desk, and I just ask you to fill it out and to hand it up. And if there's any questions? No? That's great. Okay, thanks very much, and I'll see you for the next class.